The sick and dying, the outcasts and tax collectors, the thieves, murderers, and adulterers, the disabled, and the prostitutes. The Bible tells how Jesus was close to the brokenhearted, how he cared for the least of these and helped those who struggled to help themselves. For my dad, the biblical accounts about the Savior were more than just stories. Jesus modeled the way we should live our lives today. We were to live in absolute, and what some might consider outrageous, obedience to the example Jesus set and the way he called us to live. Therefore, my dad believed our churches and homes should be filled with the people Jesus came to seek and save, the lost. One evening, we heard a knock on our parsonage door. A man who introduced himself as Alfred asked for a shower and a place to sleep that night. Alfred had been diagnosed with HIV, and he was walking across America, yes, walking the entire country, because he wanted to do something extraordinary and see new places before the virus took his life. My parents let him shower, eat dinner with us, and sleep in the church basement, since our little house was full. The next day, Alfred loaded up his things and left for the next city along his journey. That encounter sparked a desire in me to be available to God whenever He put people in my path. You see, that little town with one stop sign was where I gave my heart and life to Jesus. I sat at the Dairy Queen and told my dad, I am a sinner. I have messed up, and I need Jesus' forgiveness. I want to give my life to Him. The very next Sunday, I was baptized at the little white church with the iron cross. I came out of the water to a room full of smiling faces, many belonging to people who were a lot like Stephen and Alfred. At that point in my life, I had no way of knowing how much that place and those people would affect my faith. The temptation to sit still. Later, in my early 20s, my still new husband and I moved to a suburb of Louisville, Kentucky, in southern Indiana. Josh had taken a job at a great local church, using his web design background to serve the kingdom. Our lives had begun to revolve around our local church. In fact, our apartment was located across the street. In one sense, this was a familiar life to me. We now lived as close to the church where my husband worked as my family once had lived to the little white church where my dad served as pastor. But in another sense, there were miles of difference between life in that suburban church and what I had experienced in childhood. Everyone who attended appeared so put together. I looked around and couldn't find any people who seemed lost or needy. I grew up with my dad bringing into church the homeless, the town drunk, people who didn't smell good or stay awake. But then, as I got older and began my own journey into the first church my husband and I were members of after being married, I would look around and wonder, where are the homeless, the broken, the people who thought the walls would implode if they walked inside? Everyone I was around had grown up in the church or was a Christian. There were very few people who didn't look like me or smell like me in this church. I began to question how I was to be used in the church to bring in the sick and the hurting. I felt dissonance between my experience there and the string of stories I knew from childhood. In this suburban church of my young adulthood, I didn't see friends bringing the hurting to Christ. Honestly, I wasn't participating in God's mission myself. My obedience to His commission was definitely less than outrageous. Do you know that feeling? Are you at that place? If so, have you thought about what's holding you back? Have you prayed about what's kept you from moving forward? It might be that you've gotten comfortable. God has called us to go, but it's easy to sit. To say, I'm too busy right now, maybe later. To sit in a church pew week after passing that homeless woman on the corner for the 100th time. Trust me, I know how tempting it is to sit and to settle. But God is calling us out of our comfort and into a risk-taking partnership with Him.